In the rose garden at the edge of the Parched town, 12-year-old Martha was crouching among the cracked earth, her fingertips gently brushed over the yellowed leaves, each one seemingly drained of moisture by time, curled up into brown fists, silently speaking of the withering of life. These were the white roses that her mother had loved most. Once, they had bloomed with the purest radiance on this very land, but now, even the hardiest varieties couldn't withstand this prolonged drought. On the bulletin board at the town entrance, the new water rationing order loomed like a cold shackle, tightly binding the hearts of every townsfolk. The iron buckets glinted blindingly under the scorching sun, as if mocking people's helplessness. Martha looked at all this, her heart filled with despair. She wondered if this rose garden and this town would ever see vitality again. Just then, an old pastor wrapped in a tattered shawl appeared like a ghost outside the fence. His face was etched with wrinkles, and those wrinkles seemed to hold shadows like soot, deep and mysterious. He slowly opened his palm, revealing 3 mustard seeds that glowed with a strange luster in the sunset that looked like bleeding. They seemed to hold endless secrets. Want these seeds? The old pastor's voice was low and hoarse, as if coming from a distant past. Martha's eyes lit up. She carefully took the seeds and tucked them into her patchwork apron. Just then, she heard the sound of shattering glass from the tavern. The blacksmith was arguing with the general store owner over the ownership of a well. This kind of scene played out in Parched town every week. Like an endless farce, Martha quickened her pace, walking through the alley filled with empty water jugs. Those empty jugs looked particularly desolate in the twilight, as if lamenting people's thirst for water. She arrived at her attic, where the cracks in the floorboards let in purplish red evening light that fell right on the iron box by the bedside. Inside the box lay the pocket watch left behind by her father after the mining accident. The cracks on the watch face resembled a dried-up riverbed, recording the pain of this family. At midnight, the last drop of water in the clay pot disappeared down Martha's throat. Suddenly, the moonlight was swallowed by dark clouds, plunging the world into absolute darkness. Martha groped around in the dark. When her fingers touched the seed jar on the windowsill, a starry blue light seeped out from between her fingers. The 3 seeds were dancing a waltz inside the glass jar, and that light illuminated the children's drawing on the wall, a rainbow fountain drawn by her younger brother before he fell ill. Full of childlike innocence and longing for a better life, they need to be buried in complete darkness. The old pastor's words suddenly echoed in Martha's ears. She couldn't be bothered to put on her shoes and rushed barefoot into the backyard. The Starlight seeds jingled in the jar as she ran, as if cheering her on. When she dug into the cracked earth, she found water jugs hidden in every crevice by the townsfolk, looking like countless silent toads under the moonlight, bearing witness to the suffering this drought had brought. Martha began to look for a completely dark place to bury the seeds. When she buried the first seed in the ruins of the church, the beam of the night watchman Hank's flashlight swept over. Martha hurriedly hid in the dilapidated confessional. Not daring to make a sound, she heard Hank muttering to the statue of the Virgin Mary, "I still need 200 copper coins for my daughter's medicine. What should I do?" His voice was filled with helplessness and anxiety. When the second seed rolled into the backyard of the tavern, Martha saw the tavern owner sharing half a bucket of dirty water with stray cats. The stray cats gathered around the bucket, greedily lapping up the water, while the tavern owner's face was filled with exhaustion and sadness. When the last seed landed at the base of the fountain in the town square, the eastern sky had already turned fish belly white. Martha collapsed onto the ground, exhausted, looking at the hope she had buried. She silently prayed. In the morning mist, a dancing small figures appeared at the places where Martha had buried the seeds the night before. The lame newsboy held a chipped clay bowl, and the baker's daughter carried a leaky iron kettle. They squatted there like pilgrims, using their containers to catch the dewdrops that had condensed on the leaves. Every movement was filled with piety, and every drop of dew seemed like a gift of life. Suddenly, at noon, the scorching sun was swallowed by clouds. The first to notice the change was the general store owner, chasing after his hat blown away by the wind. He ran to the town entrance and suddenly frowned. He saw a drop of emerald-colored water rolling down a new sprout on the branch of the old oak tree that had been dry for 3 years. That water drop was crystal clear, as if it were a tear of joy shed by nature. When the rainstorm came, the blacksmith and the tavern owner rushed out from under the eaves at the same time. The blacksmith raised his hammer and smashed the big lock on his water cellar with a clang, as if it were a declaration of breaking free from shackles. The tavern owner then carried a clay pot and hurried towards the night watchman's coughing daughter. Her urgent footsteps carried warmth and hope. Martha stood by the newly flowing fountain, watching countless starlight seeds emerge from the rainbow mist. They were seeping into the potted plants on the windowsills of every household through the water flow, like little fairies bringing vitality and energy into every home. On the second year's Pentecost, the state newspaper reporter couldn't stop snapping photos of the black roses blooming all over town. These flowers that glowed with a starry light at midnight were now spreading their velvet-like petals in the drizzle, so beautiful that it took one's breath away. The tour guide pointed to the central flower bed and explained, "This was originally the place where the last roses in Parched Town wither.